All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. Got a lot of people coming in here, which is excellent. Uh, Craig, feel free to take it away for an intro.
Thank you, Eli. Welcome, everybody, as people are rolling in. My name is Craig Brown. I'm the director of the Office of Future Students for Vancouver Island University. And it is my team and it's my colleagues that you may have already been working with in terms of student people visiting your school or receiving admission letters from other of my colleagues in the admissions office. But I'm very thankful that you have joined us here today to learn a little bit about our partnership with BorderPass. And Eli is going to walk you through the benefits of BorderPass, what you can do to help make your application for a study permit that much easier, that much smoother, and hopefully work on a process where we can be welcoming you to our campus as soon as possible and hope to see you join us in Nanaimo. So again, just a warm welcome to everybody joining us here. A thank you to Eli and his team at BorderPass for putting this on, and I will turn it back to Eli. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Craig. And hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today. My name's Eli, and I'm one of the senior account managers here at BorderPass. So today, I'll be walking you through a brief, just an understanding of what BorderPass is and how Vancouver Island University wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get a study permit. So I'll be walking through what our platform is, how it works for you. I'll be showing you exactly how you can sign up as well. So as a VIU student, or soon to be student, you'll be able to go through the platform. I'll show you how you can sign up, and we're here to answer some questions. So, Isaac, I can see you have your hand raised. We will ask, you can put questions in the chat for now, and at the end of our session, in about 30 minutes or so, we'll be able to go through and answer all of those questions for you. So,
And then one thing I'll mention, Eli, just in terms of if anyone has questions in terms of admissions or any processes like that, I would, unfortunately, no one from our admissions office would be able to join us this morning, but I'll put an email in the chat that anybody can email. So if you have a question about your admission specific question, you can go right to our admission colleagues.
perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can get started here. So, perfect. You should all be able to see my screen here. Excellent. So, like I mentioned, you might not know exactly what Border Pass is, so I think a brief introduction of that would be helpful. So, BorderPass is an immigration management platform, and it was created by a couple of Canadian immigration lawyers. So, if you might be working with an agent or a lawyer yourself, our co-founders were in that same spot, and they felt that the IRCC website was a little bit tricky to use, it wasn't very clear, and they wanted to make a process using technology to make it as easy as possible to apply for your study permit through thoughtful questions, through document prompts, and this tech advanced opportunity for you to submit all the documents and make it as easy as possible for you to go through that flow. And for them, as the lawyers, to make it as easy for them to review your application and submit on your behalf. So through BorderPass, you get an easier path to uploading all your documents, making sure you're eligible for a study permit and answering questions. And you also get a Canadian immigration lawyer to review all your documents, provide some feedback, and then actually submit that directly to IRCC on your behalf. And the great point is that there's no additional cost. Through our partnership with VIU, VIU is actually covering your membership fee that we typically charge students, and they're also covering our legal fees. So if you didn't know already, to apply for your study permit, you need to pay $150 to the Canadian government, and you also need to pay $85 for a biometrics test if you haven't done one already. So for $235, regardless of who or where you're applying, you have to pay that. To use BorderPass, to use our platform, and to have a lawyer look at your application, that's all you have to pay as a single applicant as well. So we're really excited to teach you a little bit about that. But before we do that, like I said, we'll be focusing today mostly on the study permit journey. I know a bunch of you are looking to come to VIU very soon, so we'll be focusing on that. But we find we do support a lot of our students with PGWP, so postgraduate work permits, co-op work permits, and other related working condition permits that you might need. And we do help students with express entry as well. So we're really excited today to focus on the study permit. And hopefully, once we get you your study permit, you can work with us to get some of these other applications as well. But don't just take our word for it. When we talk to a lot of students, they might say, "Oh, I'm working with somebody," or "I just want to apply on my own." And we want you to know why going through Border Pass is beneficial for you. In the red here, you can see that this is the IRCC approval average for applicants from these countries. This is from the 2025 data that we have available from IRCC, which is the Canadian government governing body for immigration. 12% of all applicants from Ghana got an approval. That means for every 100 applicants from Ghana to Canada for a study permit, only 12 of them got an approved study permit. For those students from Ghana that went through BorderPass to any one of our affiliated universities like VIU, where they applied through BorderPass, we had a 45% approval rate. For example, in Cameroon, the average was 16%, but for those that came and used BorderPass to come to a university in Canada, we had a 50% approval rate. And this is pretty consistent across the board. Across all of our universities and averaging that all out, we're seeing significant approval rate increases. And you might be thinking, why is that? What does BorderPass do that's so special? We spend a lot of time asking you questions and building our platform to collect really high quality documents from you. And having a lawyer look at your application before you submit it, we often catch very easy mistakes that a lot of people make to get refusals. So going through BorderPass, using our platform, it's very beneficial for you to increase your chances of approval. And so even countries like India, all of the Indian applicants across Canada to universities as a whole had a 25% approval rate. For those coming to our universities through BorderPass, they're at 50%. So we're really excited to see the work that we're doing as well. And so you might want to know for VIU specifically, just a few countries where we have some data. Again, we've helped over 30 students get an approval, which is great, but where we're seeing a lot of success are in countries like Nigeria and India, Cambodia. And you'll see that we have the same rate for United States, but I'll get to that in a second. Again, through our platform, VIU students have a higher likelihood of approval because they go through our regulated platform, they answer all the questions, we identify and catch mistakes proactively, and having a lawyer review it makes all the difference as well. If you are an applicant from the United States, going through BorderPass, you can get all of your documents ready and you can actually apply what we call the port of entry as well. So if you're waiting for a decision or you're close to an American border, you can use BorderPass to apply for that as well, which quite a few of our VIU students have done, which is great. So before we jump into the demo, I think it's important that we just kind of summarize what are some of the requirements for you to study in Canada. So to study at VIU, you do need a valid letter of acceptance from VIU. And depending on your program, you might need a provincial attestation letter. Canada, the Canadian government recently said that all masters, so masters and PhD students, are exempt from the PAL requirement if they're attending a public university. So if you're an undergraduate student, you do still need a provincial attestation letter. VIU will issue the LOA and the PAL letter to you. And with those, these are requirements for your application. You will need them to apply. You have to apply directly for a study permit from IRCC, so the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. This is the governing body for immigration in Canada. And through our application, we'll submit your application directly through BorderPass to IRCC. We handle that for you, but you do need to meet the financial requirements to study in Canada. So you need to show proof of readily available funds that cover your first year of tuition, $22,895 in living expenses, and estimated travel costs. This amount is set by IRCC and changes from year to year. So you need to show in your bank statements, in your like fixed deposits, any sort of financial information from scholarships, if you've already paid your tuition, these all count towards an amount that you need to pay for and provide funds for. So we'll show you in BorderPass how we calculate that and how we help you track what you've got uploaded for that. You have to obey the law, you can't have a criminal record, and if required for your program and or where you're applying from, you may need a police certificate. You have to be in good health, and you need to get a medical exam depending on the program you're applying for, and if you have a co-op and you're working in that specific health field. And BorderPass, I'll show you in a second where we ask those questions. And a really important component that's relatively new for us and our focus is that you need to prove to an officer you need to leave Canada when your study permit expires. I know that many of you probably want to study in Canada, study at VIU to hopefully work here and live here and build a life in Canada, which is great. We want to help you in that journey. But IRCC, one of the most common reasons for refusal is what they call intent to remain. They're refusing applicants because technically they're issuing the study permit for you just to study in Canada, not to live here and work here. So you need to think about really showing your ties to your home country. Do you have family that still lives at home, your home country? Do you have a job or a business that you are working at, or a business you want to start back home? What is the purpose of you coming to study in Canada at VIU specifically, relative to if you were to study on in your home country? Start thinking about these reasons, and whenever our platform prompts you for questions related to your family, related to where you're from, be very thorough because we use that to proactively try to mitigate this refusal reason. So even though you want to live here and work here, which is great, we want you to as well. Keep in mind that the study permit is issued on the basis of you studying and returning to your home country. So just something to think about. Then, hopefully, you get an approved study permit, you get an approval, you get your passport stamped if you need it, you get it sent out, and from there, you can then come to Canada and you get your letter of introduction, and then you get your study permit issued to you in Canada. And there are some requirements that are listed on the actual study permit document, like you can only work 24 hours, you can't work in specific fields. All these things are listed, and you need to meet those requirements on your permit. So, just some things to keep in mind. Where I find students spend the most of the time on their application is in their proof of finances section. So, this is where you need to get your financial documents either for yourself or if you have a financial supporter like a family member, a parent, an uncle, a cousin, a sibling supporting you. Gathering these documents takes some time and you want to make sure that they're very high quality. So, in BorderPass, we show you exactly how you can do that, and I'll show you that in our demo in a second as well. And part of the reason why we have such a high approval rate relative to the national average for students that use BorderPass is because we have these tech-enabled guardrails. So these warnings here. And the purpose of these warnings is to proactively, if you're making a mistake, we're able to catch it. For example, if you try to upload a document that's not in English or French, IRCC can refuse you like that. They can immediately refuse you or request you upload an English version. So if we detect a document's not in English or French, we warn you about that. If you try to upload documents that are outdated, so bank statements need to be the most recent for the past 6 months for BorderPass. If you try to upload documents that are from like a few months prior and not recent, we warn you. If you were to submit this to IRCC, they can refuse you based on that as well. And also for lump sum deposits. I know a lot of people who are applying from outside of Canada, their families will maybe sell property or move money from their account to the applicant's account to show that you have the available funds in your account. That's fine, but you need to show where that money is coming from. So we flag what we call these lump sum deposits because we want to make sure that IRCC knows where this money is coming from and they won't just refuse you because you provided that information. Fun fact, these guardrails are only available in BorderPass. If you are to apply by yourself directly to IRCC, there is no warnings for these. You upload your documents, you submit, and then you wait for a decision. And then we get students that get surprised, they get a refusal when the IRCC could have warned them about these things. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to have a really strong application and catch some of these mistakes early. And then after all that, a lawyer actually looks through everything and often catches mistakes there as well. So we're just putting in as many protections as possible for you to submit a really strong application to avoid refusal. With that, I am going to jump into a demo here just to show you what it looks like. One sec. All right. Should be able to see my screen. So on your letter of acceptance from Vancouver Island University, you should be able to see the opportunity to sign up for BorderPass directly. However, if you go through and if you were to just go to borderpass.ai as a newcomer, you could learn a little bit more information. You could also go to VIU's site specifically, but you can go ahead and get started from there. Give me one sec. Oh, sorry, just having some camera issues here. It's angled downwards. Turn that off for now. Sorry about that. So from here, you'll be able to go in and click login. And so from here, you can click get started and you can select the school you're signing up from. So for a Vancouver Island University student, you would click VIU here and you would put in your student number that you have from VIU. You put in your name and you put in your email as well. And we also ask you for your phone number. The reason we do that is because we want you to be able to receive notifications from us via WhatsApp. We know quite a few people use WhatsApp, and sometimes emails can get lost, and there could be triggers that, really important information that you're missing if it's sent to an email that's not monitored. So putting in your phone number, we can send WhatsApp, and from there, you can click Get Started. You'll know you're in the right place when you see VIU's logo, you see this Welcome to BorderPass screen. You can go ahead and click Get Started. And like I said earlier, we do support students with study permits, but study permit extensions, work permits, PR, visitor visa, judicial review, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But for today, we'll focus on our study permit. You'll see this screen here, and you'll see a study permit journey, what the summary for it, and we'll go ahead and click Get Started. And then we're going to ask you a series of questions. So, are you currently working with or did you work with an agent? You can select yes, you can select them. These are some of the agents that we work with. We have partnerships with them. They can manage your application in BorderPass. If you don't see your agent, you can click on other and you can put in their name. Um, Otherwise, you can click no and continue. And then we start to ask you questions about your education, your work history, where you're from. We're trying to make sure that you're eligible for your study permit. And we want to show you the correct type of application that's custom for you. For example, if you attended high school in Canada or you attended high school outside Canada, those are two different types of study permit applications. So we want to make sure that based on your experience, customized for you, we want to show the correct type of application. So that's why we ask these questions. Then we ask about when did you finish your studies? Does it relate to your past work? The type of program that you're trying to apply for? Where are you from? Where you have legal status? Are you working or are you a student now? And then we ask about your family. So we ask about your marital status. The reason we do that is if you are planning to bring your spouse on your study permit application, you can do that. You can apply for them. But if we do that, we basically ask you to confirm if you want that, and then you can confirm if you're married, if you're single or not. And we do the same thing for children. So if you want to include children on your application, you can do that. You can click yes and put in their information. There are additional fees for bringing a spouse and a child because there are other components of your application, but you are more than welcome to include them if you wish. And you can click continue. Now you can upload your documents, and we're going to ask any documents we ask for that you have to use before you can move on are marked in required. If you try to move on and click continue, it won't allow you to. But I'm going to go ahead and auto upload these documents. All right, those are auto uploaded. And we'll skip to the current question where we're at. Perfect. Now, if you need biometrics, so if you've applied for biometrics in the past, I believe the validity is 10 years, but you do need it to come and study in Canada. So if you have it, you can provide that proof if you've already tested for it. If not, you can confirm that you'll purchase it with us as well. And here are the minimum required funds that we talked a little bit about. So we look at your first year tuition, that's total, your living expenses, and your travel costs, and then we sum that up. So if my tuition's 28,000 for the first year, this is what the total minimum available funds I need to show proof for. And we basically ask you to estimate what you have. This is just for us. We collect these documents later, but we want you to think about that right now in this stage because you do need to provide that proof. And then we ask a few questions about your immigration studies. So, where you want to return to after your studies. Remember when I talked about this intent to remain refusal reason? We try to ask questions to get more information about you, to learn about and prep your plans for what you're going to do after you get your degree. Let me go ahead and click continue. We ask you any visa refusal history. We prompt you just to confirm. You have to tell us the truth on that. And if you lie and our lawyers don't know, you could be banned from entering Canada for 5 years. So it's important to be honest in those questions. And then we ask you about generic or general rather criminal history questions, some medical history related questions that we need to know if you're entering Canada. And then we go ahead and click continue. And then from there, you get a summary. So you can see all the questions. You can click on them if you want to return to that specific question and change your answer, but you can review it all. You can confirm the information is correct, click submit. And from there, we determine you're eligible. If you're eligible, great. It says you're ready to apply. You can click continue. You can acknowledge our terms. And now you'll see a checkout screen. So, typically, for any students that want to use BorderPass, they have to pay a $120 a year membership to use our platform, and then they have to pay legal fees to our lawyers to review their application. Through our partnership with VIU, they have covered those fees for you. They have invested money into our platform to try and help you get an approval by giving you the best possible chance for that by using BorderPass. $400 is waived, the membership is waived, and you'll notice, because I need biometrics too, that my total is $235. If I were to apply by myself, let's say I didn't want to use BorderPass, I just go directly to IRCC or I tell my agent just apply directly and not use BorderPass, I still have to pay this $235. Through BorderPass, for no additional cost as an applicant, I get to use this platform. I get to submit a really high quality application. I get a lawyer to review it. I get these reminders on when my permits are expiring. It's a no-brainer for you to increase your chance of approval to use BorderPass because it doesn't cost any additional money for you for your study permit application. So I'm going to go ahead and input our fake credit card here. And I've confirmed my payment and it's processing. You'll see on the right-hand side that there is a checklist. So once we make progress, it does appear and shows you how much progress you're making. And our goal is to get to this arrival section here. Perfect. So I've completed the payment, and now any next step is shown to you in your study permit dashboard of uploading your documents. And we also tell you relatively early in the process when your expected application decision date is by. I'm applying from Sri Lanka, and so it says that, all right, if I was to submit today to IRCC through BorderPass, I, I'm probably not going to get a decision until May 4th. The reason that is because IRCC releases these what we call expected processing times. So you can go on their website if you're interested. And if I'm applying from Sri Lanka, right now it's showing on average it takes about 12 weeks or 3 months to get a decision. And so you'll see here, about 3 months from now, I'm expected to get a decision. This is just an estimate. This is not a guarantee, but we want to make sure you know, especially if you're applying for um, the intake in the summer or the spring, you really should be submitting your application as soon as possible. You do not want to wait. So go ahead and upload the preliminary documents. So you'll see here, the documents you uploaded earlier are available to you. You don't have to re-upload them. And then anything else that we need is shown as required. So we go into our proof of finances, we click continue. Remember, it showed you we needed that 52,000 as the proof of available funds because of our tuition, our living expenses, and travel. And we have a finance meter or a bar here. So as you upload documents, it'll increase, and then once you hit this minimum, you'll be able to submit. Some documents that count towards these funds here. I'm assuming most of you would have already completed a deposit or a payment of some of your tuition. Remember, IRCC wants to see that you can pay for your tuition. If you've already paid for it, these count as receipts towards your available funds. So you can upload your receipts in this section here, and it'll count towards those minimum available funds. And as you upload them, this meter will rise. The most common other documents we collect are bank statements. These are required. They need to be 6 months of the most recent statements. So if you're applying today in February, you need to show December, November, October, September, August, and January. So the last 6 months of those statements. You need to put them all into one account, like one PDF file. They need to be recent and they have to be in English or French, and you can upload them from here. If you have investment account statements or if you have fixed deposits, like money sitting in an account that's generating interest that's available to you, if you have an education loan through Empower or one of those other providers, if you have a scholarship as well, these are all available funds to you and you can upload these documents. I know some families, for applicants, they'll sell land or they'll move money around from one account to their accounts. That's fine, but just make sure you have the documents for that and you upload them here. And if you have a financial supporter that, like your parents or your cousins or brothers, sisters, you can click Add Supporter, put in their name, and select what the relationship is to you. And then from there, you're able to basically get their documents and upload them here for these funds. So I'm going to go ahead and auto upload the rest of these documents here. So now it shows my proof of finance is completed and my funds are at 200,000 plus. It shows that I've uploaded a bank statement, which is great. I can review the details because once you upload the PDF, excuse me, all of the information is preloaded here from that. Let's say there was maybe a mistake or the PDF wasn't that clear. You can correct all of that in here as well. And then from there, for bank statements, it says no lump sum details provided. Our system, like I was talking about those guardrails before, will flag if you have a lump sum. So it would basically flag if you had a lump sum related to your checking or your savings account, a lot of money coming in or out of the account. IRCC should know where that money is coming from. And it's in your responsibility to prove that because they can refuse you for not knowing if that's actually money you have access to. So our system also prompts you to upload information or just provide any info about that as well. So from there, I'll go back. I've uploaded all of the necessary documents. They're all completed. I can click continue. Again, I didn't upload any source of funds documentation for my 200,000 or for the large lump sum or deposits. So just important we're flagging that to you. Wherever you can provide more documents, the better. We go ahead and click continue. And the next step is to complete a full assessment. So here we'd ask you questions about your citizenship, where you're born, just some more information about your family ties and things of that nature. We go ahead and click OK. And now we're on our last stage of uploading our documents. So everything we've already uploaded is here is great. This is where you would upload your provincial attestation letter, so from VIU that's issued to you. And there's also some official government forms. When you apply for your study permit, you do need to provide these forms. Typically, you'd have to go to the government's website, download them, then you have to fill them out in Adobe Acrobat and do that, and then validate it. And sometimes it can lead to a broken form, and then IRCC will ask you for it, which will lead to some delays. So we tried to make it as easy as possible. We made it as a simple, fillable form, and where the questions you answered before, where we collected info, we already input it in there. So you can go through and update that, save and complete it. It's a way easier way to complete those forms, and they're always uploaded with the most recent ones, so you don't have to go find and download some from IRCC. I'm going to go ahead and auto upload some of these. You're going to go ahead and click continue. And the last step is building your statement of purpose, or what we call a study plan document. This is a very important document, and it's a chance for you to tell your story. Why are you coming to Canada? Why are you studying at VIU? Why did you choose the program you wanted? So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to think about it question by question, to then frame it in this really strong way using our platform and also using your input. And then a lawyer will assemble it and review it at the end and submit for you. So the first question is state your step-by-step career plan about returning to your home country. Again, this is just one of, I think, 10 to 15 questions that we ask you. You can put in your answers and click continue. And once you do that, it'll save. So you don't have to do this all at one go. You can do some of it, you can leave, check on it a couple days later. You don't have to do this all at once. Then we ask you about the companies you want to work for. Click continue. The ultimate career goal. So what's your career goal? What do you want to achieve? We're trying to get you to think critically about why you want to come to Canada. And then we ask you some other questions. So for the sake of time, I will autofill the rest of them. But if we go back, once you answer all of those questions, it'll say that your statement of purpose is being generated, and it'll take a few seconds for you to see that here. And then you'll be able to review your statement. So we've built it, which is great, and now we're able to review it. And from here, you'll be able to go through and make changes. So you'll get started. It's going to show you every section that was generated based on your input. And now you get a chance to review it. So here's the introduction section based on my input. My name is X. I'm a resident of Sri Lanka. And let's say I want to make a correction. It says, I'm eager to expand my knowledge and skill set in the field of biological or biomedical sciences in order to reach my career goals. I can click make corrections. I can copy this. I can say change to Reach my career goals of becoming uh, a doctor with the hopes of opening a clinic in my hometown of Colombo. I can click generate revised version. So it's going to be generated here. It'll show the changes it suggested and made here. I can click done. I can agree that it looks good, and I can approve this section. Then I would go through and I would basically make corrections and approve every section that's been generated. Keep in mind, these are some of the questions that you've answered when you were building the statement of purpose. It's now putting it all into this really smart, organized way so that the IRCC border officer is able to access it and make sense of it. And then it shows you one final summary here. So the drafted version, it'll show you what comments I wanted to put in, the final version I approved. Remember that step-by-step career plan, the prospective companies, the career goal, these questions that I answered when I was going through it? It then put that all together and summarized into what we call my plan. Then we have the plan section, the objectives section, the interest in the field section, inspirations, why you chose the program, if you're bringing a spouse and children, why you're bringing them, and what your status in Canada is today, and what you're looking to do once completing your program. So I've seen students in the past that haven't used BorderPass, they just go to ChatGPT and say, generate this document. And oftentimes it isn't cohesive, it isn't organized, and you put very limited information. Through BorderPass, we're asking you to think critically at each specific step so that we can use that platform to generate this really strong document. And so then you go through, you confirm if it looks good. You can click back to last section if you want to go back and make changes. You can click confirm. And the very last thing you need to do is sign a use of rep form. This basically states that one of the lawyers at BorderPass is handling your application and managing it for you, and they'll be your legal representative throughout this process. And then you send your application to a lawyer review. We've completed all the steps in preparation, which is excellent. Everything looks good. And now the lawyers will take 1 to 3 business days to review your application. They're going to look at what you submitted, make sure everything looks good. And if they see anything that they want you to add, or if there's any things they want you to think about or they're concerned about, they'll assign it back to you and say, hey, Eli, your application looks good, but we need you to add this, this, this before you can submit. So once they do that, then we're good to go. You send it back to the lawyers, and then from there, they look it over once more and they submit it to IRCC, and then hopefully we get an approval and we go from there. Typically takes 1 to 3 business days for the lawyers to review it. However, especially around closer to the start of an intake, when applications come in quicker, we do have priority review available. If you want the lawyers to review it within 24 hours, you can click priority review. It's completely optional for $75, and the lawyer will review your application within 24 hours. But that is the process in a nutshell from start to finish. Some other things to keep in mind. If you have any questions at all or run into any issues using BorderPass, you can click the little icon in the bottom right corner and you have access to a chatbot. And from there, you can ask questions to the chatbot or you can say, connect me to a support team member. And from there, a ticket is created internally with our support team. You'll have an option to manage it here. And from there, you can basically communicate with our support team and we can give you support where you need it. Sometimes there are very complex cases. You might be a student that's here already in Canada on like a visitor visa or a visitor record, and you don't know if you need to apply for a study permit or an extension, or you can meet directly with one of our lawyers. So you can click consult a lawyer, and one of our lawyers, these are some of the members of our legal team, their calendars are available, and you can go from there and book your personal consultation. This session is completely optional. You don't need to do it, and it costs $80 plus tax. Just for you to know, to meet with a Canadian immigration lawyer in Canada, it can typically cost anywhere from $250 to $350 for a meeting. Through our partnership with VIU, we have significantly discounted that, and you can ask the lawyer anything. It doesn't even need to be BorderPass related. You have the option to meet with a lawyer to ask any questions about your situation, about maybe a prior refusal, if you want to go through that refused application, and how you can submit a stronger one. Anything at all, you can meet with them and ask them. That is the BorderPass platform. Before we get into questions, I do have a few more slides that I do want to run through. Just a reminder, why you should use BorderPass. If it isn't evident already, it's a lot easier to use our platform, step-by-step process to applying. You get a lawyer to review it, but there's no additional cost. And we have support for refusals. So we are seeing more refusals from IRCC for our applicants this year compared to last. And we do have a process called a judicial review. And this is something that an RCIC or a consultant can't really do. And if they can, or a lawyer can do it, it can cost several $1,000s. But we have the opportunity, if you feel that your refusal was unjust, that it was not fair, you can have our lawyers challenge the federal court and hope to overturn that decision. So they'll submit their arguments to the federal court. The federal court will review them. And in most cases, the court will turn it over and say, you know what? This student shouldn't have been refused. This student, we're going to reassign their study permit application to a new border officer, and they can refuse it, or they can review it and hopefully approve it. There are some deadlines. If you're applying outside of Canada, you can only initiate this process within 60 days of refusal. If you're applying inside Canada, so you're already here and you're applying for your study permit, you only have 15 days. And here's an example on the left. The IRCC noted that the original application that was refused, the officer's analysis of the applicant's financial resources did not engage with the evidence provided. The federal court was stating that they thought the border officer didn't do a good enough job when reviewing the application. So this is another opportunity for you. Typically, we're seeing it takes anywhere from 6 to 7 months for the full process. So if you get refused today, then it gets refused, and then from there it gets reassigned to a new officer, and then a new person looks at it. That whole process can take 6 or 7 months to get the actual approval. But based on some of the refusals we saw from some VIU students, this is where we saw the most amount of applicants from, which is great. But these are the reasons we saw. Intent to remain and insufficient funds were the most common refusal reasons for VIU students. And 43% of them that said that they had insufficient funds, they actually had double the minimum requirement. So if they needed to show 50,000, they had showed 100,000 and they were refused, which does not make any sense. So these are really good opportunities and avenues for you to overturn a decision. So like I mentioned, we do have a support team that works with you and we're willing to support you for any questions you have. And we'd be really excited to support you on your journey as an applicant. So without further ado, I am going to get into some questions here. My camera is still broken, unfortunately, but I'll go through in the order of the chat. Let's see. Question. Jane asks, I need to know the amount that's required to be in my bank account for an MBA. I filled the form on BorderPass, but the page took me to a payment page and doesn't allow me to go to the previous page that talked about the amount required. Thanks, Jane. So yeah, you would have been on that funds page where you just estimate the amount of funds available. So what I would suggest is later in the process, you're able to basically upload those funds, but now you're at the payment page. You would just add the first year tuition for your MBA, and you would add the living expenses, which is, I'll put it in the chat, 22,895 plus first year tuition plus estimated travel costs, which we tend to see around 1,500. So I put that in there. That's what you need to know for that. And once you complete the paywall and go through the process, you'll be able to actually upload your financial documents from there. So Mohammed Adin, I see you asked quite a few questions. What services do you offer as a part of your application process? So you would have seen that through the presentation. We assist with reviewing the application, submitting to IRCC, judicial review, and also if you want to meet with the lawyer, you can do that. It's completely optional, but you can. How much do you charge for these services? If it's for a study permit application and you're applying by yourself, we only charge the government fees, but the paywall is shown very early in the process, so you'll be able to see exactly the fees before you make significant progress in your application. Do you provide counseling on steps students should take before applying to university? For example, choosing the right program or university? No, we are not included in that recruitment process, but you might want to, if you want to meet with one of our lawyers, you can do that, but we typically don't advise on that. In the case of visa refusal, would there be an additional fee to reapply? There is no there might be a reapplication fee about $100, but depending on the school, it might be waived. Again, that is shown completely to you before you make any progress. And as Iranian applicants face stricter scrutiny and different challenges, He wanted to ask if you're familiar with those specific conditions in IRCC's approach towards Iranian cases. Definitely. So we are very aware of the geopolitical situation in Iran. Now, the processing time for Iranian applicants has increased significantly, and we've helped Iranian students get approvals through BorderPass. So our lawyers are equipped to handle that. Wendy, if I'm a Canadian citizen and I want to know if I offer to provide room and board to a student who's applying to study in Canada and needs a study permit, does this help the applicant receive the study permit? You would be considered a financial supporter, so you'd have to provide some documents of exactly what you're providing, and it could definitely help if you're covering those costs for them, for sure. Wendy, you're also trying to assist two applicants, one from Ghana and the other from Nigeria, who've been letters of application and been refused. If you're an agent, you can reach out to us via agent support at borderpass.ai, or you can just have these students create their accounts and we can support them from there. Wendy, are we as Canadian citizens able to write a letter stating we'll provide room and board? I did answer that. You'll be required to provide a financial supporter letter, which you can detail exactly how you're supporting the student. Will the session be recorded? Yes, it will, and VIU will share it with you. The form for reviewing information populated was not allowing me to edit. Well, I want to edit. It was not going back to the specific part that wants to edit. Jane, click the chat bot in the bottom right corner and say, I want to speak to a support person, and our team will be able to assist you with that. Wendy, what's the amount that's needed if an applicant's bringing a child? You can go through, and if you select child, it'll show you the amount of funds needed for them. The website says 4 months bank details required. Clarify. Yes, Jane, IRCC technically only requires 4 months, but we require 6 because it leads to a higher likelihood that you'll submit a stronger application and get approval. We want to have more financial history, more documents, because that's what IRCC wants. So through us, it requires more. So if you're thinking about applying directly just because it might be easier, that's fine. But keep in mind that you saw the rates before, applying through BorderPass has a higher likelihood of approval because we require more documents for a more thorough application. Uday, you're coming to VIU in September for your MBA. Congratulations. So you've transferred some funds, you got some funds in your account. What other requirements do you need? Do you have your spouse who you're accompanying? Yep, we do support them. Just go through BorderPass and select you have a spouse, and it'll also show you all the requirements you need for the spouse, including funds and what documents they need to provide. And do you need to pay any fees apart from the student visa? Uh, yeah, we have, if you're including your spouse, there are some additional fees, but that's all shown to you in the BorderPass checkout. Jenny, would it be okay to come in for a visitor visa over the summer, leave, then come back with a study permit a week later in September? Yeah, you can come for a visitor visa. And then keep in mind, if you're applying from outside of Canada, you would have to leave anyways to receive it at the border. So just keep that in mind. But you can enter, but keep in mind, you're not allowed to study at all. You can just enter before your study permit starts. But let's say you're waiting for the decision and you're already in Canada, you have to leave. You do have to leave and then come back to get your study permit issued to you. And you can't just go to the United States. That's called flag polling, which has its own concerns. There's some, there are some rules you need to follow, so just be very careful. You can reach out to our lawyers about that, or have a consult with them to walk through that. But generally, yes, you can do that, but you do need to leave Canada and re-enter. Dominic, can I pay the fees in installments? To us, no, you can't. I don't know if you're talking about tuition fees. If you are, reach out to VIU for that. If you refuse, is it better to reapply or do a JR? Wendy, that'd be a good opportunity to meet with our lawyer because depending on your refusal reasons, it might be a legitimate refusal and might not be a good candidate for JR or judicial review. So meet with the lawyer and they can advise exactly on how best to proceed. Can you apply directly from Jamaica? Yeah, Linford, if you're coming from Jamaica to VIU, absolutely. Jamaica is a country that we accept applicants from there, so just select you're from Jamaica during our questionnaire. Abdullah, what can I additionally do to reduce my chances of refusal? It's very hard for me to answer that question without knowing anything about you. But using Border Pass, getting a lawyer to review it, submitting really good documents, and proving you have an intent to return home after your study permit are some general reasons that you can do to avoid refusal. Hi, Vivian. You want to apply for a master's MSc for a medical doctor? Okay, on behalf of them, he's interested in a MSc medical administration. How much is the tuition fees? I don't know, Vivian. I think Craig had put it in the chat. For tuition, like questions related to the type of program, I would recommend you reach out to study at VIU. I just put it back in the chat. If the applicant has several LOAs from different universities, how are your options to help? Good question. They can create an account with one of them. If the school they want to go to, they can apply with us. But generally, if a student has other applications, you can open multiple applications at once, but it is tied to the school. But we recommend using us just for one of those applications. Wendy, if we provide letters of support, what do we need to include? Bank statements? Yes. Letters of support for the room and board? Yes. Our platform will show you exactly what you need, and you might need to get that letter notarized as well. Mohammedine, should I sign up for BorderPass after I get my LOA? Yeah. So we do need a student number and an LOA from you. So until you have those, you can't start in BorderPass. Jenny, if you're in the US citizen, I need to figure out what your first question was. One second. Yeah, if you're from the US, then you can return to the US. Sorry. So flag polling is this process where people who typically aren't US applicants, they would just go to the US and then come back in a day. But you can come on a visitor visa and then you can leave to the US and come back to get it issued. Also, as a US citizen, Jenny, you can apply for what's called a port of entry application. So we can help you go through BorderPass, sign up, and complete the initial process. And then it'll ask you if you want to apply at the border. We'll give you all the documents, and you just go right to the border, and they make a decision for you there. So you don't have to wait for a decision. You don't have to get a visitor visa. You can apply, just go through us. You can even meet with our lawyer and they can tell you how to do it. But as a US citizen, you can apply directly at the border. And we've had a few VIU students do that, and all of them were approved. So you don't need to get a visitor visa, leave, come back. You can apply directly at the border as a US citizen. If the statements made by the client in the study plan section are not convincing enough, will the lawyer or advisor change it? Yes. So they review the statement of purpose and either suggest changes or make them itself, and then they submit that document. Jane, is it possible to have an email address for someone to help at BorderPass? Wasn't getting any luck with the chat box regarding in. So Jane, we don't have an email that we give out to students, but you need to in the chatbot ask to be create a support ticket. The chatbot won't necessarily solve that problem. Say, I want to speak to a support person, and then one of our human support team members will reach out to you, and you'll get a ticket number. So as long as you do that, our team should be able to support you. Shakila, I think you already answered this question. If somebody's already in Canada on a work permit and would like to get the study permit, but still is not sure about VIU for the fees, or they need to pay that 400, or the fee to see consultation in BorderPass will be the same, or VIU student are different. If you're already in Canada on a work permit and want to get the study permit but not sure about VIU, yes. So there are different fees if you're not affiliated with one of our partner schools. I'd recommend once you have an LOA, then you create your account with BorderPass, because then you get access to our services and it would be cheaper for you as well. Tina Donna, I'm an adopted child of my mother's sister, so your aunt who adopted you lives in Canada. So can I attach her bank account too as proof of funds? Yeah, you can have multiple financial supporters, adopted or otherwise. If you have family members that want to support you, they most definitely can. Your aunt can support you. Uday, if I'm considering the situation right now, even if you have all the documents, do you suggest applying spouse together with student visa, or should I apply with spouse with border pass once I receive my student visa? Hmm. So probably I can't say whether it'll jeopardize your chances, but generally applying on your own and providing a strong proof of funds is a lot easier for the application and less reason for IRCC to refuse. So if you're able to and you can leave your spouse back home and they can come on a visitor visa, you can include them or you can have them come on a spousal open work permit. I recommend Uday meet with one of our lawyers, talk through the situation, give your specific details, and they can best advise you. And Tina Dana, if I want to use Border Pass, does it mean that I start the process when I have the required documents, including the proof of funds? You can start today as long as you have an LOA and your student number and your passport, and but to move forward, we do need those from you. Mohammed Damin, in case of refusal, how much will be charged by BorderPass for resubmitting the application, and will you advise what to change for an approval? So some schools, Mohammed Amin, have a prior visa refusal fee for a reapplication. I'm not sure if VIU has that, but you'll be able to see that in the checkout. So I don't know the exact price, but you're able to see it once you click reapply. Uh, if you want to see what can be changed, you'd have to pay the $80 to meet with our lawyer, and they can advise you on what to address based on your refusal, but that's completely optional. Uday, when can we access the Border Pass or Visa? Once we have student ID or once we receive LOA. You need your student ID to sign up, but you need your LOA to proceed in the onboarding assessment. So you can sign up as long as you have your student ID, and then once you get your LOA, you can actually begin the elements of the study permit process. Hazrat, I see you have your hand raised. I've now given you the option to speak, so feel free to come on mute and speak with us. Okay, nothing from Hazrat. Hazrat, I've asked you to unmute if you'd like. Any other questions for myself and the Border Pass team? All right. I'm going to lower your hand, Hazrat. Uh,
Like
Jane?
someone has. Oh,
Yeah, Jane, feel free. We'll
yeah.
start in order here. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the platform. So on BorderPass, I've already had a profile, but on the agent, I put someone's name that helped me to secure the place at VIU, which is obviously wrong after this meeting. So how do I make it right? Is it possible for me to open another profile altogether and start again populating on BorderPass and doing the attachments?
Yeah, so the applicant needs to have their own account. Are you an agent, Jane, or are you just like helping somebody
No,
as a
I'm a
financial
student
supporter?
for
Okay.
2026. I'm a student. I already got the letter of acceptance, so I'm trying to get my visa through you guys, but I'd made some mistakes on populating.
Okay, Jane, I would create a ticket. Oh, right. Yes. So make sure you create that support ticket and uh, you'll know you've done it correctly once a ticket is like created and you get a number. Our support team should be able to assist you with that. You shouldn't have to create a new account. It should be an easy fix. We just need to make sure that request gets sent to our team. So go to the chat bot, type, I need to talk to someone on your support team, create a ticket for me, and then it'll ask for
Okay.
more information and then a ticket gets created. Okay?
Thank you so much.
No
Thank you.
problem. Good luck, Jane.
Thank you.
Okay, Mohammed Amin, go ahead.
Hello.
Hey, I can hear you.
Hey, thank you for the information. Well, thank you for your answers to my question, but I have probably some more. I'm from Iran, and well,
Yeah.
based on everything that you know, there are some stuff that kind of makes a difference between applicants from Iran and other countries, like for example, Philippines. Uh,
Hmm.
so we are facing some negativity side that officer probably has. Uh, so in that case, lawyers in Iran, they somehow, well, they create some information or ways to just convince the officers that this applicant is going to return home or is going to just study and just come back. And that's gonna make it hard just to convince an officer for an Iranian just to come and return. But before that, I want to know that does Border Pass support this kind of kind of helping for an Iranian applicant? Because not only that, even the university that an Iranian applicant may apply can affect the decision. For example, a private school can lower the chance of visa approval, for example. A school in, let's say, Saskatchewan can just increase the chances, but in Vancouver can decrease the chances for a Persian
Hmm.
student. Well, on case of that, I want to know, do you just for writing an study plan? Well, there's going to be many different things other than just stating generally why I'm gonna do this, or and stating why I'm applying to this university. More than that, well, we, about that, I think get the point for me.
Yeah, no, I get it, Mohammed Amin, I totally do. What I can say is this. It's not just Iran that has like specific nuanced parts to their applications, you know. China does too. India does too. Ghana does too. And our lawyers are
Yeah.
trained on that. And what I can say, I can't speak for them specifically, but we have several Iranian or Persian applicants that we've gotten approvals for in the last few months. So ahead of this conflict, we're still allowing them. We also support with refugee claimants from Iran and helping them with their applications. So our lawyers are equipped and have gotten approvals for Iranian students. What I would maybe suggest, if one of your students creates the BorderPass account, right? If you want to meet with
Yeah.
one of our lawyers directly and ask them these questions, they can provide information about that. You can meet with, and the lawyers you would be meeting with are the lawyers that are actually submitting our applications too. It's the same lawyers. You can maybe review that with them and ask them questions and join your student on that call if you'd like.
Well, yeah, I'm a student myself,
Okay.
and yeah. So, fee for Border Pass you said is 235 just for VIU or even other universities.
So we're partnered with our other schools. For most of our schools, we do cover those fees. So it's only the to study permit application submission process. We're only covering collecting the IRCC 235, you know, the fee for that, which is great. But to meet directly with the lawyer one-on-one, that is a fee of $80 plus tax, where you get to meet with them on a Zoom call or a Google Meets call, talk to them, and then, you know, ask them any questions.
Okay, so 235 for the application submitting, and after visa refusal, there's gonna be I didn't get when you said the answer.
Yeah, so if there's a visa refusal, sometimes, and I'm not sure if VIU has it, some of our schools have a prior visa refusal fee. But I'd have to double check our platform, but our lawyers would be able to confirm that for you. And typically that fee is only like 75 to $100 reapplying for a refused application. But you'd be able to see that if you had a refusal and going through the checkout, it would show you that before you make any progress on the application.
And will you help? Well, you said I can just book a like talking to a lawyer or something like that, but on the platform, when I just start answering the questions to the study plan questions, if there is anything wrong with my statement, or maybe let's say it's too general or it's not as it should be, will I be contacted by a lawyer
Yes,
or
they'll
no?
reach out to you for anything. If there's any issues with the application as a whole, like whether the statement of purpose is too general or maybe your documents, we need additional information on that, they'll reach out to you via email and say explicitly what you need to add, and then you can resubmit it back to them.
Yeah, so will he also change anything on my behalf?
Yeah,
Like for a
if
study
he sees
plan? Yeah.
issues, he'll make changes. Yeah. That's why you
Yeah.
sign the use of representative form because they're acting as your lawyer. Mohammed Amin, we have a few more questions in only two
Thank you.
minutes, so I'm
Yeah,
going to
it
move
was
forward.
awesome. Yeah, thank you for the time.
No problem. Isaac, go ahead. Okay, while we wait for Isaac. Suman, feel free to come off mute and ask your question.
Hi,
Good evening, sir.
so my sister ha
Oh, sorry, Suman. Give us one sec. Go ahead, Isaac.
Good evening. I want to ask this question. I'm from Ghana, but I'm currently on the Seychelles. I want to know if I can pay the school fees in installments.
Pay in installments?
Yeah. Because if I don't have the full payment to pay, can I pay
No.
through installment?
So BorderPass does not accept installment payments. And if you are talking about paying tuition, I don't know if you can pay installments. You'd have to reach out to VIU specifically for that. But we do not collect installment payments. It's one-time payments only at BorderPass in full.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac. Uh, Suman, go ahead. Sorry about that. You can come off mute and ask your question.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. I am calling on behalf of my sister, and I am the financial sponsor for her. I heard you saying that sometimes rejections are also because 50K is needed, but you submit it for 100K.
Yeah.
So, for a financial sponsor perspective, right, when they show their bank statements and, like, let's say, investment account portfolios, things like that, like brokerage account statements, they do not put aside a specific amount somewhere, but basically, I'm talking about myself. I want to show those statements and things and have a sponsor letter for her, but not put like a specific amount somewhere and show that, okay, this is for tuition. So, would that be okay? Because that would not show like a specific amount, but it would show,
No,
it would
as a financial supporter, you need to prove how much you're providing as a supporter. You can't
like a
you can't
fixed amount.
a fixed amount. Yeah, and you need to show proof of where you have those funds, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, of course. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Proof is clear, like source of funds and where it came from, things like that. That's all is clear. Okay, so that answers my question. Basically, you need to show. So it could still be in the brokerage accounts, things like that, but
Yeah,
you just need to.
absolutely. It just has to be available, and you need to, in your letter, you have to basically state this is how much I'm providing for them to stay, and it has to be a
But that
fixed
would
amount.
be an estimate, right? Because
Sure.
if
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
stay
yeah.
for 2 years, 3 years,
Yeah,
and the living expenses, things like that, so it could be just an
it
estimate.
doesn't have
It
to
could.
be to the decimal point of exactly how much you have, but you're basically committing that you're going to share that much.
Got it. And that is covered in the sponsor letter that we submit as.
Yes.
Got it. And you said it takes 2 to 3 days for the lawyers to review the profile. So if because she goes in September, but we still want to do it early, as early as possible. So we
Yeah, you
have
can apply
everything
now.
ready.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
apply
we have
now.
everything ready right now. So I wanted to know if 2 to 3 days is the standard time, or could it take even more than that?
No, it takes 2 to 3 business days, but if you're for the fall, apply now because then you'll get an approval earlier. If you get a refusal, then you have a time to reapply, and then hopefully you have more time to like book your flights and stuff at a cheaper rate. So even though it's only
Right.
February and you're getting in for September, apply now.
And the last question, I know a lot of people are waiting. I'll just make it quick. So she also has a ESL pathway along with the MBA, right? So because of her a bit lower IELTS score. So I wanted to understand, have you guys seen rejections because of that? Because there's a pathway and then you go to the, and even though like in the study plan, you kind of explain all these things clearly, but could that be a reason for rejections and do you guys help around that?
Not necessarily, and I wouldn't say we have enough data to support that, but if they're applying for you said an MBA, right?
Mm-hmm. Along with an
Generally,
ESL.
yeah. Um, It might make sense, Suman, for them to meet with our lawyer, and you can join that call too. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we've seen necessarily refusals for that, and generally, master's approval rates at universities in Canada that are public are generally higher than undergraduate programs, and they don't need a provincial attestation letter. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it if she scored low on her IELTS score, you might want to talk to our lawyer to figure out the best way to position that in the application.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
No worries, Suman. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, our last question I see from Abdul Rahman. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's now that I'm trying to apply for the admission as well as the border pass, but I checked through the VIU programs. I wanted to apply for AI and data science program.
Yep.
I'm not seeing that course among the program that your school is offering. So, what is the best
Okay. So
advice that
Abdul
you
Rahman,
can
I'm
offer?
gonna
And then which school
so
can I get it
we don't do
for free?
anything for program recommendation. It's once you have your letter of acceptance, then you come to us. We only help with the immigration study permit component. I would recommend, I just put the email in the chat. It's study@viu.ca. Reach out to them and say, hey, this is the program I want, but I don't see it. They'll be able to assist you with that. Once you get approved to a program, then we can come help you. Okay?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so graciously.
No worries.
And quite apart from that, without getting the specific course that I want, maybe can I apply and get admission? You assist me. with the border pass. Then thereafter, I'll look for the school that I can get the AI and data science program.
No, like I said, we don't do anything with that. We only help with immigration. Okay?
Okay, okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for your time. I know we went over by a few minutes. This recording will be made available to you, and we hope we can support all of you with your applications. Take care.